A drone flying in the distance captures zombies feasting on a living person. The drone, initially intending to get a closer look, didn't expect that. The man on the ground, already beyond saving, was covered in wounds from the zombies' bites and emitting bursts of agonizing screams. Suddenly, the zombies dash towards the back, as there are a few more humans hiding in the room, just behind a door, ready to be their next fresh brain meal. Then, a barrage of gunfire erupts, and the surrounding zombies are beaten back. Emerging is the X Squad, en route to California, now finding themselves in Mexico. As mentioned earlier, they took a detour to this country to avoid radiation and zombie hordes. They are now preparing to cross the border back into the United States. Unexpectedly, upon their arrival, they encounter a massive horde of zombies, and with Murphy still recovering from his injuries, they have to split up 2 people to support him, which makes their situation even more difficult. Their ammunition is running low. Their only option is to keep moving, never letting the zombies encircle them, or escape would be impossible.
Clear!
Before long, they reach the border wall, towering over 10 meters high. Impossible to climb, the wall stretches for 2,000 miles, making escape seem hopeless. The path behind them is already blocked by the zombie horde. Roberta, with a furrowed brow, orders everyone to check their ammo, but their combined count doesn't even reach a few dozen rounds, making survival seem like a fool's dream. Roberta quickly pulls Murphy up, urging him to try controlling the zombies.
If you're the zombie messiah, now is the time for a miracle.
You gotta try, man!
Murphy, his eyes red and weakly raising his hands, is too frail. His mental strength is insufficient to control such a vast horde. Just as all hope seems lost, an explosion sounds in the distance. Looking up, they see several black-clad figures with heavy weapons on the wall, and a door unexpectedly opens below it.
Down here! You said it was time for a miracle. Hey, you wanna die?
Although they recognize that this was the second in command of the Zero-Point Drug Cartel, he was definitely not a good guy. But there's no other way out now. If they don't leave, they'll die here. Descending the stairs, it appears to be an underground passage. A scorpion calmly says, "I've been looking for Murphy. I didn't expect to find you all through the drone. This saves me a lot of effort."
This man is our prisoner. That CDC bounty is ours. If you try to take him away from us, I will blow his brains out.
Roberta had to say that in front of outsiders, or else they really wouldn't have any bargaining chips left. A scorpion said calmly, "Put down your weapons. If I wanted you dead, I could have just left you outside. Our boss, Lena, is looking for you and is willing to pay generously."
Remember the mission.
After hearing this, Roberta feels there might be some sense in his words. Since it's not a fight to the death, they decide to see what the other party wants. Then, they followed a scorpion along the tunnel. To their surprise, the ground above turned out to be the headquarters of the Zero Group, something nobody had anticipated. But the X-team smelled a foul odor along the way. A scorpion explained that behind the wall were collected zombies, left to decompose. This decomposition would produce methane and other forms of energy, providing resources for living. After a while, a scorpion led them back to the surface, claiming that beyond the door lay the future the Zero Group aspired to create. The X-team follow with some trepidation, and the sight they see is unimaginable. It's so lush and green that it seems to calm their minds after being out there for so long. Soon, a scorpion led them to the living area to meet Lena, the boss.
Lena.
Unexpectedly, the leader of Zero Group was a woman. Lena, the boss, was not condescending but rather approachable. She straightforwardly thanked Roberta for bringing Murphy. This puzzled Murphy. Wasn't Zero Group a drug trafficking gang? What did they want with him? Lena didn't answer but promised to show Team X the answer themselves.
You don't need no weapons here.
Roberta nodded helplessly. In another's territory, weapons had to be surrendered. But this wasn't submission, just a strategy to stay alive. They followed Lena, unsure of their destination. Vasquez, trailing behind, scrutinized the arms of everyone they passed, because it was mentioned in previous episodes that the man who killed his wife and daughter was from Zero Group. Roberta is the only one who knows about the face tattoo on the killer's arm. The rest of Team X doesn't. On the way, Lena revealed that Zero Group had its scientists. They needed Murphy solely for his blood, to develop a cure to be distributed to all survivors. restoring world order. That surprised the X-team that a drug cartel would be so kind. Next, Lena leads them to the lab, which looks pretty decent. At that moment, a familiar figure emerged, Dr. Kurian, responsible for a nuclear explosion killing hundreds of thousands.
You son of a bitch.
So this is where the Zeros took you. I thought they was gonna kill you. Glad they didn't. Now I can do it myself.
You two know each other?
You hear about the nuclear strike in Colorado?
Colorado. That's where you disappeared with all my research and my money.
You brought me here to atone. I am atoning. And look, here he is.
Lena wouldn't let Kurian be harmed. With a serious and somewhat threatening tone, she told Roberta, "You wouldn't want to kill my doctor on my territory, would you?"
Why not? I would.
Because you took my gun.
Lena was pleased with Roberta's tact. She offered a deal. Sending Murphy to California was for a reward, but she could offer 10 times more than the government. Thus, Murphy stayed in the lab, while Team X was again taken to the basement. Lena presented two options: either leave with enough gasoline and bullets for 10 years, or join Zero Group to start a new era. Her words held no coercion, calmly awaiting Roberta's decision.
Take the offer.
What? Why?
Los Zeros don't give options. Take the bounty, you'll never live to see it.
Vasquez was right. If Roberta chose to take the items and leave, they would probably be shot on the spot. But Vasquez had his own motives for suggesting they stay. It was his chance to find his enemy.
You are more generous than I could have hoped for. We'll stay.
Lena was pleased with their choice. However, she stated that to truly join, they must pass some tests. As soon as she said that, the X-team was all hooded up. When they could see light again, they were in a room. A Scorpion, with his man, stood on the second floor. The upcoming test was called Humans vs. Zombies. As the name implies, they had to kill zombies in a confined space to qualify as members of Zero Group. Refusal meant immediate execution. Roberta knew it was pointless to argue. Now they were at the mercy of others. Better to choose suitable weapons and kill the zombies. Those upstairs even started betting on who among them would survive.
What are they doing? Betting against us.
Round one.
Round one. How many rounds?
Without a reply from a Scorpion, the alarm sounded and a zombie appeared. Addie stepped forward and killed it with one blow. It seemed too easy. Just this? The final challenge was to face many zombies at once, but a Scorpion underestimated X-team. They had traversed thousands of miles across the U.S. Killing zombies was second nature.
I'm gonna do you a favor.
It was these words that made Vasquez look up with excitement and ferocity in his eyes. That phrase haunted him in countless sleepless nights. He had always been searching for the Zero Group member who killed his wife and daughter. He didn't know what the murderer looked like, only the facial tattoo on the arm.
I'm gonna do you a favor.
A Scorpion's words had almost confirmed his suspicions.
To speed things up, why don't we kill the lights? Las luces.
X-team had to kill zombies in complete darkness. Only the survivors could join Zero Group. Through years, they had fought zombies countless times and had developed impeccable teamwork, making this task manageable.
No wonder you survived so long. We could really use some Zeros like you.
We get to join your club now?
Meanwhile, Murphy was left in the lab with only Kurian. They talked openly. Murphy was curious if Kurian was really researching a vaccine for Zero Group. In his view, Kurian was always cunning and not one to be manipulated. Kurian candidly admitted he had to pretend to work on a vaccine or he would have been killed. Saving the world was none of his concern. Kurian's reason for bringing Murphy here was to implement a plan he had once discussed with Murphy. Now, Kurian needed Murphy's blood to create a serum to control humans, making Zero Group their puppet. Murphy agreed to cooperate. Intrigued by the idea, after a while, Kurian finished preparing the serum. Lacking test subjects, he stealthily attacked a Zero Group guard in the underground passage. Kurian dragged the man back to observe him. After the injection, the man's eyelids twitched as if in great pain. Suddenly, he opened his eyes.
Why'd you do that? Why did you try to attack me?
The more important question is, why did he stop?
Because I wanted him to.
Yes.
They laughed heartily. The serum was a success. Their next step was to administer the serum to every member of Zero Group. Meanwhile, X-Team had passed the test and officially became members of Zero Group. Their treatment improved immediately. The first order of business was a makeover. They changed into new clothes, got styled, and even enjoyed spa-like treatments. Roberta underwent the biggest transformation. She hardly recognized herself with makeup and lipstick, which was not her style. Doc looked somewhat gentlemanly. Addie is sexy and alluring. A Scorpion then entered to take X-Team to a location. Vasquez's eyes stayed fixed on the tattoo on a Scorpion's arm, the murderer of his wife and daughter. Roberta quickly noticed Vasquez's unusual behavior. Understanding why he was distracted today, they were led to a second-floor area, and before they could take in their surroundings, they heard applause. Looking down, they saw a formal party in progress. Opposite them, Lena, dressed regally, had the air of a queen. She unveiled her headscarf and then began to deliver a speech, recounting the challenges faced by the Zero Group and the even more splendid future ahead. With Murphy's addition, they just need to develop a vaccine, and a new world will be initiated by the Zero Group. She also thanked X-Team for their contribution, publicly announcing that they would now be part of Zero Group. She even had their weapons cleaned and returned to them. After the introductions, everyone was free to enjoy the party. The X-Team dispersed. Since we can't leave, let's enjoy the present. Only Vasquez, with a stern expression, continuously watched a Scorpion's direction. Roberta stayed behind, the only one aware of the full situation.
You can't ask me to do nothing, Roberta. It's him. I gotta do it.
Roberta advised Vasquez not to be impulsive, or at least to wait for the revenge plan they had worked out together. Addie, 10K, and Doc would not stand idly by. Acting rashly might not only fail but also endanger all their companions. But Vasquez was stubborn, believing their mission was already complete. Although they hadn't reached California, Murphy's blood would be used here to develop a vaccine and save the world. Vasquez wanted to seek revenge in his own way and asked Roberta not to interfere. The sights and events that followed revealed to them the true nature of the Zero-Point drug cartel. First, Addie saw from the window several henchmen chopping up a zombie, initially thought to be a freak. It turned out that the body contained some drugs, likely stashed by small-time drug dealers before the apocalypse. Inside the house, some of the residents put on a show for Lena. A middle-aged man was about to begin after straightening himself up.
Good luck. Get that mess out of here. Rápido. And no zombie mimes either. La Reina hates zombie mimes.
Such a cold-blooded organization, Lena remained indifferent, as if the death of one or two people didn't matter. Conversely, Murphy held a lofty position within the Zero Group, with residents queuing up to offer him flowers, basking in the sensation of being worshipped like a deity. Roberta saw the scene and couldn't help but feel a little strange. From what she knew of Murphy, this guy was smiling a little smugly. He seemed to be holding back some kind of conspiracy.
Murphy, you son of a bitch.
Where's my flower? You're supposed to bring me a flower, apparently.
What happened to you?
What?
You know what I mean. What did Kurian do to you?
Oh, that. You know, drew some blood, blah, blah, blah.
Man.
He's working on it.
Do you? I mean, seems like you're starting to enjoy what you do.
I'll tell you what I am enjoying. Being treated like a friggin' saint. You want to try it sometime. Eat, drink, and be merry, Warren, for tomorrow we die. Probably.
Seeing Murphy unwilling to talk, Roberta got up and left. But just as she reached the edge of the crowd, she turned to see a Scorpion leaning on the door, with a figure quietly appearing behind him. It's Vasquez. Roberta realized something was wrong. This guy wasn't going to do it here. They'd be dead if they were implicated. As Roberta was thinking, Vasquez had already drawn a gun, aiming at the back of a Scorpion's head. Roberta hurried forward. The other members of the X-Team noticed this and their expressions changed drastically. None of them understood what got into Vasquez. They all breathed a sigh of relief, thankful that Roberta acted in time to prevent him.
She saved the queen!
Everyone at the scene thought Vasquez was there to assassinate the queen. Even a Scorpion believed so. But a Scorpion was not grateful to Roberta and even suspected that others were involved. so he requested the Queen to hand over Vasquez to him for interrogation. Vasquez was taken to a factory, his hands suspended overhead. On the table and walls were various tools. A scorpion picked up a wrench and struck Vasquez's ribs.
Now, tell me, why were you trying to kill Lena?
I wasn't.
Seeing Vasquez refuse to speak the truth, a scorpion picked up a tool for cutting fingers. Just as he was about to make Vasquez suffer, a report came in that Dr. Kurian wanted to see Lena, sparing Vasquez for the moment. 10 minutes later, Kurian was brought before Lena, excitedly claiming he had successfully developed a vaccine. This announcement shocked everyone present. Even Lena was somewhat excited. Kurian continued, saying the vaccine could completely counteract the zombie virus, preventing mutation even after a bite.
How do you know this works?
I've been testing it.
On humans? Show me. Show me how this works.
Kurian miscalculated, not expecting Lena to demand a live demonstration. He awkwardly looked at Murphy and then forced out a sentence.
I will just need a volunteer.
But as soon as Kurian's words were out of his mouth, a scorpion directly escorted Vasquez here to make him a guinea pig. Roberta was anxious, vaguely guessing that Murphy and Kurian were definitely conspiring something, and that there might be something wrong with the vaccine. Kurian was in a tough spot, but now he had no choice but to proceed.
Remember this day, for it will mark the beginning of a new world order. Of a zero world order.
More like a Murphy world order.
Let us proceed. Hold him still, goddammit.
The X-Team, seeing Vasquez being coerced, hesitated whether to take action to rescue him.